Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
Thanks to Adam Dunn, a new and improved and exciting, looking good, open for Talking Memphis Wrestling. Here we go again, the May 7th, 2024 edition. This is our 19th show of 2024, and already Thomas is in the house. He was the first one in. Reese, appreciate her, appreciate everybody. As the associate minister is in the house, we got Reese talking, everybody talking, and there's storms coming to Arkansas tomorrow. There's storms in Alabama today, and we have a fantastic show. I've said it before, hope to say it again, but this has the potential to be the best show, most packed show, most exciting show, most unusual show, most rare show we ever have. It is our mission to continue to build the legacy of Memphis wrestling. And how do we do that? By showing you classic Memphis wrestling stuff. And for the people with local wrestling promotions in Memphis, Tennessee, that says nobody cares about 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000 Memphis wrestling, all they care about is the stuff that's going on today, they are delusional. They don't know what they're talking about, because this fan base, the fans of Talking Memphis Wrestling, the fans of Randy Hills, the fans of Memphis Wrestling will tell y'all you don't know what you're talking about, because that's what we do. We educate, we inform, we entertain, we have a lot of fun on this program. Michelle Smith is in the house saying hello, Randy. Hey, Michelle. Hey, late for the party is PJ. Reese Lewis says, great job by Adam Dunn, and Adam did do a great job fixing, or not fixing, but modernizing that open. Great job. BC Collins says hello. What is going on? I will tell you what we will do on this show, but first we have a question right now, and we'll answer that question if we remember to answer the question. But we have first takes to do, and we have the preview to do. And you say, I've got a question for the whole panel. If you would make a DVD of the top moments in Memphis wrestling, what would be your top moment? You guys, the panel, needs to remind me to get back to that. Mark Blast says, I heard the Jerry Lawler, and I'm not going to talk about that right now because that will be my first take later. We will show you, and Chris Ellis will be interested in this, the very first live event in Jonesboro, Arkansas, very first live event wrestling I ever saw in my life was November the 10th, 1973. And we will talk about that card. Then another card that we have is from Lexington, Kentucky, Rupp Arena. Robert Fuller's booking tenure there. That's May the 3rd, 1979. Then if Michael is here by segment 3 of the show, this is segment 1, by the way, that we're doing right now. If he's there by segment 3, we'll show rare video from 1973, and I think you will love it. Segment 4 will Blacklash review from this past week, and if we have time, we will also have 3 videos from 1980. Man, this one is loaded. This one is exciting. I'll do a first take in a minute. The first person in the room is usually who I let, except for myself, of course, who I let do the first take, and he's in Kennesaw, Georgia right now, 2.5 hours away from Birmingham, Alabama. He is the original co-host of this show, my friend Pat Trammell. What's your first take, Mr. Trammell?
I feel like I'm in a time machine tonight. We're going to jump all around on Memphis wrestling, which there's There's a whole lot to learn each and every week. It's good to see everybody. It's been quite a week. Good to see all our friends that are getting. Well, I tell you what, we have more and more people every week. And Shane, we'll be interested to get into your question a little later on. I tell you, there's a million memories, and I look forward to exploring today.
Something I would rather put off to next week unless you're just certainly wanting it today, because I'd like to put my thinking hat on, Shane, and research it and spend some time and maybe back it up with pictures and video. I think we could do that. Don't you think that's a good idea, Pat?
I think that'd be a great show, and I think that'd be a great show for everybody to kind of wade in on, and maybe we can get everybody to, announce it the week before we do it and see what everybody thinks.
Jeremy's in the house. Frank is in the house. So is PJ, all saying hi to Pat. Artie has said hello to me. Al Tuttle is in the house. Talk to Al on the radio when I did the front row with Bud Row the other day, Friday, and then I called in today because I was mad at something and I had to do a rant at them a little bit because Al was stirring me up. Thomas Lemon saying we sound very good, and Steve Robb, a representative from Princeton, Indiana, and we will take Pat away for a second and bring in the co-host that's been assistant superintendent. He is a busy, busy, busy man. We are close, if not already past, graduation at Southside School in Arkansas, and summer is coming. And I want to welcome to the show right now co-host, superintendent, coach, former athletic director, former American Legion baseball player, and a crooked freaking referee and umpire, Chris Ellis. Good to have you back, my man.
It's great to be back, RH. Say hi to everybody. It's been a long time since I've been on, but school's about out, so I'll get to be on for a couple of months. I'm excited about that. Also looking forward to the show. Your experience with your first live action is a year ahead of mine. So I'm curious. I'm curious to hear about this because I don't remember this. So it's going to be cool to hear your take on all that. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Your first take.
My first take is graduation is over. Always a big milestone when you send 120 young people out into the world. It's a really cool feeling and enjoyable. I mean, you're in the education business. That's a big deal. The other thing is, you mentioned storms. I'm in charge of safety here at the district. If you live in Arkansas, tomorrow, be weather aware. Oklahoma's been hammered the last few weeks. Keep those people in your thoughts and prayers. It's been a really bad time. All the chemistry's there for tomorrow evening, not to be real good around where RH and I live. So keep thoughts and prayers looking up for those folks because it's got a chance to be rough.
I'm going to cut line real quick because Michael St. John is in the house. But I want to do a first take now, and I want to do a rant. And then Michael can respond to the rant, and then Michael can do his own first take, and I'm going to give him something to probably rant about and first take about, because we've talked about it before, because Michael's family, newspaper people. Jim Cornette's dad, newspaper people. And we've said it on this show, what is ruining journalism right now in this country is that social media, the internet. What's ruining professional wrestling is these, what Jim Cornette says and other people says, dirt sheet riders. I call them a bunch of fools that insult and come across as experts to our business, and they show things, as Michael has said, he's told the story that you checked the source and checked it again and checked it again, then you broadcast it. They don't worry. The journalism, I'm not even going to compliment them by saying journalists. These writers that's in their mom's basement typing this crap, this lies, They don't try to verify anything. They just want to get numbers. They want to get links. They want somebody like Jim Cornette or me or whoever to cuss them and call them dogs. They like that, the fact for sure. Well, on Monday, there was a release on a so-called reputable wrestling site that the headline article said Jerry Lawler gone from the WWE. There is, and Michael, I don't remember. Michael wasn't here last week, so a week or so ago, I happened to run into the King. I was in Memphis, went by his house. He wasn't there. I went to Mark James. He was doing a Comic-Con downtown, had some wrestling stuff. I went to see Mark and to see if I could buy stuff for the set. And you see one of the great posters on the set right now. And I did that, and I walked all over that place with Lawler, then went back to his house, and we visited for an hour, and that article was acting like he was just in bad shape, and we had just a great talk. But they said he was gone from the WWE. He's gone for the WWE. Now, in 30 minutes, they revised it, said, well, he is no longer under an announcer's contract. He is under a Legends contract. You know, kind of a contract Steve Austin's on, kind of contract that The Undertaker's on. That's what Jerry Lawler's on. Maybe not on that much as much money as those guys, but he's being taken care of. So they clarified that a little later on, but it's the first news. You look all over the internet. Jerry Lawler gone for the WWE. It got heat on the WWE where TKO sent out a press release that he is just not broadcasting anymore. So this is what I'm talking about. And again, before his first take, Michael's going to respond to this mess that I'm talking about right now and taking too long because we have great stuff. Because this really makes me hot, people. It really makes me hot as hell. Channel 5 in Memphis, Gray Broadcasting, did a story on their app, on their news app, said the same thing. Jonesboro K8 is owned by the same people on Channel 5. They printed the same thing. Why in the world would a reputable news group, or they not, can we not even freaking believe our local news anymore? I'm going to quit. That fires me up. The radio station in Jonesboro, and Al got a hold of me and said, you might want to fire up at those people. They said it wrong. I don't blame them. They read. Common sense is when a news source, especially a NBC affiliate, ABC affiliate, they get it right. It makes me hot. It makes me hot how people out there are pretending to be journalists. But what I didn't know, Michael, is the real journalists at the real TV stations, they're getting their sources. Their sources are these damn kayfabe sheets. What in the hell is going on with our damn media? Michael St. John, everybody.
Thanks, Randy. Randy, this is it's one thing leading to another, and it all starts over the fact that it all starts over the fact that news sources, real news sources like Channel 5, like our local TV stations, like our local radio stations for that matter, we've had so many budget cuts, so many, it started out where you can only own 7 radio stations and 7 TV stations. Then it got changed and you can only own 20. Now you can own 1 million. And what's happening is that, let me finish, bud. What is happening is that the news sources, the big people, the Clear Channels of the world, the Hertz in the radio business, and of course the big dogs in TV, have cut their budget for their news departments because so much news source is on the internet. Now, there are real news sources on the internet, and there are fake news sources on the internet. And the majority of the fake news sources of the internet are the big fat guys that are living in mama's basement, got a pair of gym shorts on that they've had for 3 days, hadn't had a shower in 6 weeks. And they're writing all the crap to get the attention, just like you pointed out. Big headline, Jerry Lawler gone from the from the WWE. Well, it gets everybody's attention, but it's a lie. So they take that lie to sucker people in. And if they have to detract it or take it back later, there's no consequence. In the old days, if Channel 5 reports a story and it's wrong, there's a lawsuit around the corner in 5 minutes. But these Jimbronis, these, Facebook, and I don't call it Facebook. I'm going to use a dirty word here. I call it fuckbook because it fucks everything up. But let me tell you something. For every one of those good news sources that's out there, there's 100 bad ones. And we had the same thing happen here within the last 3 weeks. We've had a tremendously terrible incident occur here, and we didn't report it because until we knew it was news and bona fide certified news, we didn't put it on the air. We didn't put it on the air for 4 days because it was rumor and innuendo. It was all the F-book freaks and fakes, F-book fakes out there. We got a thing here called Arab Aware, and it's a bunch of idiots. Then they all say, oh, well, I just saw a wreck and so-and-so got hurt and whatever. And half the time they're right and half the time they're wrong, and the other half the time they're lying. So, it's an endless circle. The Pandora's out of the box with this social media crap. Sometimes, you see there's a little bit more thread of truth in Twitter, not much, but a little bit more thread of truth in Twitter. Hey, Facebook is right 5% of the time. 5% of the time. The rest of the time, it's lies, it's innuendos, and it's big, fat you-know-whats in their mama's basement because they can't get a job or too lazy to get off their big, fat ass putting these things out there. So I can rant that with you. The whole thing goes back to the big news people that were creditable. Even the Washington Post has gotten bad about this. They have the real news people. I have an engineer. The real news people are falling prey because it's expensive to have a real newsroom anymore. Whether it's newspaper, which are dying, which is radio, which news departments went away 30 years ago, or whether it's now television, where you're seeing news departments get smaller and smaller and smaller. It's a sad case of a fact, sad state of a fact, but the fact that social media is easy, friend, and quick and low down dirty, write it, whether you have a fact or not, write it, because they're throwing it up against the wall to see what sticks. And half the time, like you say, all they're doing is trying to create sensationalism to get their likes and their numbers up.
Why don't you, as your first take, tell us, and we'll get the show going, but I want to hear about how the trip to the
Derby,
the Kentucky Derby went, and did Joshua go with you last week? And hello, Joshua, what's going on,
Hey, they're saying
buddy?
hello to you. Come on, you got to put your headphones on. Say hello to all these good folks out there. Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody this week. I missed everybody last week, guys. Say hello, Joshua. You can hear Randy.
Hi, Joshua.
Wave at him.
Yay! Everybody, Ronnie Crowder says hello.
Yeah.
Says hello. Yeah. Hey.
Tell him who's your favorite team you're watching on TV right now.
I'm the Cincinnati Reyes.
Really?
Yeah.
You think that's a Southern kid?
Yeah.
Reyes.
Yep.
Reyes. Yep.
Reyes
Somebody
is
said
4
somebody.
syllables.
All right. Well, listen, you go over there and we'll get you some root beer in a few minutes. Is that what you want?
Yes.
Okay. You can listen on your headphones if you want to. All right. My first rant of the night is this. First of all, thank you, everybody.
That rant, I thought we lost Chris because he has me toned down because of his job, and then Michael comes on and starts dropping one F-bomb after another. So I thought Chris, a lot of times when I go crazy, he'll disappear from the face of the show, but he's still there.
Thank you, Chris. I didn't mean to use it, but I got to tell you, that's what I call it. And it's really sad that we've got that state of affairs. But getting into my first take, had a great trip. I haven't had a chance to really get back to post a few pictures, and my wife looked gorgeous on both days. And the first day for the Kentucky Oaks, she bought a dress up in Saratoga, New York a couple of years ago, and she wore it and got so many compliments, and she really looked beautiful. And we had a good time. We won a little bit of money, and in 2 days I think we came out $130 ahead, which is for us good. But the one thing that I think was funny on the whole trip, and Pat, I think you'll get a kick out of this, I know Chris will. We went to a great Cuban restaurant in Louisville. You know, Louisville is one of the top 10 culinary cities in America today. And I just found out why, and it's interesting. But we go to a Cuban restaurant, great place. We ate there last year, wanted to go back. So we go back and we ordered La Boguita de Torita or something like that. But anyway, it's on Nulu. It's on Market Street. So we order, I love lecon. I love Cuban food to begin with, but lecon is pork. And the best I've ever had is in Miami, and they served a small ham and like a stew, and that's sort of kind of what it is. Well, they had lecon on the menu, and I said, I hadn't had it in a long time. I ordered it. So we wait about 5-10 minutes. Food comes out. Melanie gets a chicken dish. It's delectable, gorgeous, beautiful. And they bring me a plate, a round bowl, sort of like this. And sitting in the round bowl is this, just like this. Empty round bowl with a can. I'm going to put it up close so you guys can see it. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. They cooked my meal in this can. And the story behind it, the maitre d' came over and told us about it. When the Cuban government fell back in the 50s and they aligned themselves with Russia, one of the first things Russia did was come and kill all the pigs in Cuba, because of course Cuba is the Isle of Pigs. So they kill all the pigs for the pork, and they ship the pork back to Russia. Well, a lot of the farmers, the Cuban people, a lot of their dishes were pork. Well, they had a pig shortage. So what they started doing, the old farmers there would slaughter the pigs a little younger and would can the meat. And that's how this particular dish came to be. So anyway, I think this dish was like $28. I paid $28 for a can of Cuban Spam, but it was delicious. I can assure you. But on top of that, I was going to just tell you about the Louisville being the reason Louisville has gotten to be a top 10 culinary city in America is two reasons. Number one, they have a great culinary school there called Sullivan University, and it rivals the big cooking academies in Boston and New York and Chicago and San Francisco. And they draw they've got a ton of kids, and it's a 3-year program. They have a campus, they have housing, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, they've got that cooking school there. But the other thing they have to make Louisville a culinary city is they're the world headquarters for UPS. So every plane around the world every day flies into Louisville. They unload their packages, and then they hub it to Louisville, and then they smoke it out to whatever city it goes to. I had a lobster on Friday night that was in the water in Hawaii the night before.
Amazing.
So they get all this fresh everything from all over the world, and they have these great restaurants. So anyway, that's my first take. But oh man, had a great trip. Ate heavy, but thank God didn't gain any weight, and my HCL or TCL, whatever they call it, stayed the same. So I'm happy about that.
We're going to do a couple of pictures of the day. Now, the next to last picture that is on the picture section, Adam, and the next to last one, if you will go ahead and put that up, because we're going to talk today about the local promotions doing local TVs all over the place. We'll talk about Birmingham TV. We'll talk about Louisville TV, even have some videos. We're showing a picture right now, and I'm going to have all three of you guys, Pat and Michael and Chris Ellis, tell me the two wrestlers here in the studios of Jackson, Tennessee.
I'm going to guess the guy in blue is that Eddie Marlin?
Yes, sir.
Jimmy Kent.
Who said that?
Me, Chris.
Jimmy Kent.
Yeah, Jimmy Kent.
Manager of the Bounty Hunters. That's exactly right. Now, I want to go to the very last picture that we have, and this is from Birmingham, Alabama. A very, very, very young Jerry Jarrett, Tojo Yamamoto, and who is Pat's hand is raised up. So, Pat?
Taft Epstein.
No,
Okay.
Joe Denenberg.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
All right.
Joe,
This is Birmingham, Alabama. Pat got all excited and he was raising
I
his hand.
thought it was a young Taft Epstein, Michael.
they looked alike. Absolutely. No doubt about it. I knew Joe. You know, Joe had a loan company. Do you remember that, Pat?
I do remember that.
He had a loan company, and he sold advance tickets to the Monday night shows it was the only place you could get advance tickets in Birmingham to the Birmingham shows for Monday night. But I had the opportunity to meet Taft after from Nick, and he was retired and not in very good shape back then, but he was sort of legendary in Birmingham, Pat, because he had a loan company that would make loans to people that maybe had a little rough spot in their credit, and he was the guy on wrestling, so everybody trusted him.
Yeah, that's right.
It listed on this webpage that it was a promoter of Birmingham. Did Nick ever call him a co-promoter?
Yes, absolutely. Back
He had
then,
points.
yes, you're right, Pat. Back then, you know, Nick and Roy did that in every market. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Ben Bates, was there a guy named Ben Bates or Guy Bates in Memphis?
It was Bert Bates and then his son Guy Bates.
Okay, all right. In Chattanooga, it was their TV commentator,
Harry
Thornton. In Birmingham, it was Joe Denenberg. Here in Huntsville, it was Jack Welch, and I think he was a cousin of Roy.
Right.
But he had one in every city. And basically what they did is they were the front men for his wrestling promotions.
Chris, we show those two pictures. Your quick comments on that, those two, Eddie Marlin, Jimmy Kent, and also a young Jerry Jarrett and Tojo with somebody that I never heard of, Joe. What did you think of those two pictures?
Yeah, I'm like you. I didn't know who that guy was because I didn't ever watch the Birmingham end. I mean, I knew Jimmy Kent right off, and I was trying to see. I thought it was Eddie, but when Michael confirmed it, I'm like, yeah, that's that. But Jimmy Kent looked the same forever. He never changed.
Pat, your comments.
It is interesting to me how much Joe Denenberg, and I do recognize him as Joe now, but he did look a lot like a young Taft Epstein. Taft Epstein had the greatest commercial. He was a jeweler, and he had this little wind-up monkey that he would put on, and it was a live commercial. And the monkey would say, "Oh, it's going fast. Come and get your jewelry now," and all that. It's great.
Did you see the show? I'll never forget it because it was one of the funniest shows. He would set up, Taft Epstein would set up a little jewelry case right there next to the desk in the studio. Right. And would have watches and diamond rings and necklaces and all that, and have the monkey, like you said, and the monkey clapping the cymbals. And one of the boys, and it was a match, and one of the boys went out of the ring, and the boys were warned, don't get near the jewelry. And he lost his balance and wiped it out. And there's this Taft Epstein is standing behind his jewelry, and he sees, and it was one of the bigger boys. I want to say it was Mario Milano or somebody. It was somebody that just lost his balance, and he went into the jewelry, and Taft Epstein is like, I mean, it's like his whole life's on the floor. It was hilarious.
Joshua's got a hot tag coming.
Yeah,
Let me find out what it is.
I see a hot tag coming right now. I want to go full screen if I could, Adam. And then the next thing I want to do is the second newspaper ad that we have posted. The second one is from Jonesboro, Arkansas, where the Randy Hill story began. first started watching wrestling in 1972. It's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television. Want to thank Mr. Al Getz from New York that's traveled all over the country and going to public libraries. He came to Jonesboro and looked at the archives of the Jonesboro Sun, and he sent me a file of 10 years worth of Jonesboro ads. It's just a blessing. Send it to me because he's a nice guy. And I remembered couldn't remember the day, but I remember the match that I saw. And I want to read this card. This is from Jonesboro, Arkansas, where the Randy Hales story began. This is from November the 10th, 1973. The tickets were $1, $1.50, and the overpriced ringside tickets were $2. And this is the card. Larry Latham against the man that soon became, or years later became, Jim Garvin, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. This Jim Garvin was the valet of his quote brothers, Terrence and Ron Garvin. So Terry Latham and Jim Garvin was the opening match of the night. Now, the second match of the night at the American Legion Arena on Washington Street in Jonesboro, Arkansas, on November the 10th, 1973, was Dwayne Peele, Dwayne Peele against a wrestler I don't remember. I don't recall ever hearing this name, Ray Duran. Now, the main event, 2 out of 3 falls, no time limit, no disqualification. I had been watching wrestling right now as we can come to me. I had been watching wrestling for about a year, every week. Remember, it's America's favorite sport on WHBQ television. Yellow again, everybody. Lance Russell and Dave Brown from the studios of WHBQ TV channel 13, 485 high in good old Memphis, Tennessee. And we're ready to go for studio wrestling on channel 13. That's what we heard. I've been watching that for a year, and I was begging my parents to take me to the Jonesboro matches. This is the card. November the 10th, 1973. No time, no disqualification. Third fall, got wild, got woolly, got crazy. This I begged for, going to the matches for a year in a row. And they finally took me. And it was one of those Memphis-style fights, wild and woolly. And all of a sudden, they spilled out of the ring, and the heel, I think it was Terry Garvin, hit Eddie. And Eddie took a dadgum bump in my lap. And I was 11 years old. And my niece, who was 8 years old, and about smushed us. And then the big fight and all that, and the nieces were crying, my mother was crying, I was crying, and we left. So that is my confession this week, folks. My confession this week, right here on Talking Memphis Wrestling, Randy Hill shows. I am confessing the fact that I couldn't make it through my first live ever event wrestling card, and that's the event from November the 10th, 1973, and we'll go straight to Chris Ellis, who is from the Jonesboro area, and he said he attended a year later, and he wasn't too familiar. He saw the notes with this action. The Garvin brothers, man, you know Ron Garvin, you know Terrence Garvin, you know Eddie Marlin, you know Tommy Gilbert, you know Buddy Wayne. This very interesting and a very interesting confession. What do you say? What do you want to talk about?
I didn't know who Ray Duran is. And then Terry Latham, I'm not familiar with who that is either. Obviously, Jimmy Garvin, I know his history and all that deal. The thing I find interesting, if memory serves me, the tickets didn't. A year later, when I started going, the tickets were the same.
Right.
They were the same price. It was $1 to go to wrestling. It was like the coolest. Nowadays you think about that. I mean, you go to wrestling and get a ticket, a hot dog, and a soda, $2. I mean, that was your expenditure for the whole night of watching, usually 3 matches probably. But the thing that Adam noted was Walmart Discount City was on that poster, on that advertisement. And the 4th Walmart ever opened was opened in Jonesboro in 1973. That was the 4th one that ever happened. He says Walmart Discount City on the side of it. So to think about that, think about Walmart, where it was in 1973. And then lastly, I always tell kids, we talked about graduation earlier, that you never know. So here's Randy Hales. In 1973, he goes to a live wrestling show. And fast forward 20-something years, and you're Stone Cold Steve Austin and Undertaker and all them guys' boss. I mean, like, what, you know what I mean? Like, kids never know where they can go. They can go anywhere they want to go. And you're a prime example. You loved it. You were dedicated. That's all you ever wanted to be. And you dedicated your life to that.
Well, if you think so highly of my story, you should bring me in to talk to your dadgum kids. They wouldn't have a clue who I was, but I could get over.
It depends on how fired up you get. I'd have to edit the language.
When did you ever hear me cuss on TV5?
I'm kidding. I know. I just said that because of what you said about Michael.
Yeah, I had to tone him down a little bit. We don't need Chris fired at all. So that Jonesboro card, real quick, is we are over 30 minutes into this show. Another card to go, and then right into to the video. Pat, what did you think about the Jonesboro card, real briefly?
Well, I look. It's interesting. I looked up Ray Duran. He was a wrestler from Mexico who was born in 1908, and apparently was the article referred to him as a carpenter, and he was quite up in his years even then. So, but apparently wrestled all over the Southeast and the Southwest over the years.
Michael?
Yeah, Pat, you're right on with Ray Duran. I remember him as the tag team partner when I first started watching wrestling in the 60s of Sailor Moran.
Okay.
Sailor Moran and Ray Duran took on whoever, whatever, and they were of course heels, but he was up there. I think he and Gypsy Joe were about the 2 oldest wrestlers that I ever had the opportunity to work with.
I want to say hello to David in Maysville, Kentucky. Nicholas Oakes in the house, and Ronnie's in the house, and this is a big show. Real quickly, we want to go. It's the first card that's posted. This is from Lexington, Kentucky. This is several years later. This was, as you know, we talk about it week after week. Jerry Jarrett started in April of 77 running his own company. By May of 1979, Robert Fuller, the son of Jerry Jarrett's partner, Buddy Fuller, as Jerry Jarrett had booked from 1967 or 68 all the way to April of 79. And Buddy Fuller said, my son Robert's doing a great job booking in Knoxville. You need a break, Jerry. Even though business was good, they just got through the Joe LeDuc Lawler feud and got through the Valiant Lawler feud and the Dundee Lawler feud, the very first one in 77. Great business. And they brought Robert in, and Jerry Jarrett was not stale. Robert Fuller was booking this card, and I will read this card as the Alaskan against Buzz Sawyer, Tony Charles against Hans Schroeder, German Hans Schroeder, a ladies match on the card. Then what I bet was a real good match, Tommy Gilbert versus Jimmy Golden. Then a Southeastern Heavyweight Championship match, Ron Garvin against karate expert Ron Slinker. Then a Southern Heavyweight Championship, Professor Tanaka against the Mongolian Stomper with Gorgeous George Jr. Then a Southern Tag Team Championship match, Robert Fuller and Bill Dundee, the Southern Tag Team Champions, against the Assassins. And then The final match on this card was a cage match. Loser leaves town in a cage. Austin Idol against Jerry the King Lawler. We see that newspaper ad there, and the date of that is, I will give it to you again. It's Thursday, May the 3rd, 1979. Quick thoughts, quick respond. Chris Ellison will go with that.
Well, this card here looks like you did the feud with Smoky Mountain. That looks like the feud with Southeastern, because that's a Fuller crew. Slinker, Austin Idol, that's all Fuller, strong Fuller guys. So I guess he shipped some guys out when he took the book in Memphis and brought his crew in.
Yes, and it did not draw.
No, I can see that, because I remember Ron Slinker vividly, and I always thought, like, what's he doing wearing long pants? And I never did buy that when I was a kid. I mean, I was
did
12.
not either.
I was 12 then, when that card happened.
Pat, your comment on the Lexington card.
Yeah, I mean, you had some good guys in there, but it does seem a little mismatched over time. One thing I wanted to say, Randy, is I don't know if anybody follows social media, and specifically Twitter. You mentioned Al Getz. I can highly recommend Al Getz Wrestling to anybody. Al also does the Charting the Territories podcast and has published some books on it, and it's just really good stuff.
Did you ever get your book you ordered last week?
I did.
James History of 1977.
I did, and I can highly recommend that too to anybody. That book is as thoroughly. I'm about a quarter of the way through it, and that book is probably 400 pages. And Mark has done a fantastic job of chronicling with pictures and posters. I mean, it's very much like the work you do, Randy. He has the artifacts and lays them out. It's just great work. I can highly recommend that.
Fantastic. MarkJamesBooks.com. Richard Hood says hello. Michael Barr, hello, Randy. Army veteran from Southeast Alabama. Thank you so much for your service. Ron Slinker was a Kevin Sullivan follower, BC Collins says, for a while. This Lexington, Kentucky thing, as we will finish up our talks about the two cards we discussed today. The Lexington, Kentucky card from May of 1973, Michael St. John.
That was an interesting card. It's interesting that it seemed like wherever Robert Fuller went in the early days, Jimmy Golden went. And weren't they cousins, if I'm not mistaken?
They're first cousins, yes.
First cousins. So, and Jimmy Golden, I always thought Jimmy Golden, not to slight Robert, because I really enjoyed Robert's work in the ring, but I always thought Jimmy Golden was akin to Bobby Eaton when it came to working in the ring. I think he was just underserved. People don't realize how good Jimmy Golden. In fact, the last time I worked with Jimmy Golden a few years back at Wrestle Birmingham, he could still go. And I think a lot of people sort of miss out on the fact of how good Jimmy Golden really is.
I think no doubt about it. And the card was different than what we were used to, but it's absolutely interesting, 100% interesting, 100%. I wanted, as Michael, I was going to do this, and Michael did the rant, and then I thought, well, I better not do it, but I am going to do it for sure. I am going to plug a Facebook page. Everybody, if you're on Facebook, go to Nick Goulas Mid-American Wrestling. Nick Goulas promoted from 1948 to 1980, according to this website. And that's where I swipe a lot of the pictures. As Al says, Jimmy Golden was Bunkhouse Buck in the later years. Also, of course, named part of the stud stable. Part of the stud stable. I want to tell you right now, as somebody said something about a cold beer, but it's not me. I quit drinking in 1995, by the way. Hey, now this part of the show I'm excited about. So don't ask me any questions, because I'm talking to my panel of where I found this video. And if you know where I found this video, I don't want you to tell where I found the video. It's very top secret. So if you guys tell, I have no other choice. I have to kill you. It's one of those things. This is just important type of thing for everybody to just enjoy. Louisville, Kentucky, the Derby City, where Michael St. John was. Now, he was there last week. Dick the Bruiser, yay, Dick the Bruiser, and also his partner Wilbur Snyder for years and years and years wrestled in Louisville, Kentucky every Tuesday night at the convention center that was later known as the Louisville Gardens. Louisville Gardens ended up my favorite place in the territory to go to wrestling matches. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was just a great place. But Dick the Bruiser, same old wrestlers. They quit drawing. And the town was dark for several years. And Jerry Jarrett and Christine Jarrett went up there. And on July the 7th, 1970, Jerry Jarrett wanted to get into ownership. Jerry Jarrett wanted to get into promoting his own town. So he had to give Nick and Roy their percentage and that sort of thing, but Christine and Jerry Jarrett own Louisville Wrestling Enterprises. They first opened up before this July the 7th show. They first opened up Evansville, Indiana. Then they after that they ended up July the 7th, 1970, and for the next 30 years almost, they wrestled in Louisville every Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens. Yes, by the way, Sylvia Shane was Robert Fuller's valet, Robert's ex-wife. Now, at this point, Nicholas Oates congratulates me on not drinking for nearly 30 years. So that's the setup of Louisville, Kentucky. And I want to look and see. I think Michael went away, and I really there's Michael coming back, and Chris is there, and Pat's there, because I didn't want to show this video. And I'll give you a heads up, Adam, because before they go into the first match, right after the preview, I'll tell you when to come out of it, and we'll just keep it right there. Louisville TV, in the beginning, they used stuff from Nick's End, Birmingham, Chattanooga, Nashville, that sort of thing, along with spliced in from Memphis. However, in 1972, they got a local television show which I had never seen in my life. This was on in the end of the USWA. We were on the station WDRB TV, Channel 41. Channel 41 in Louisville. They started doing live shows on Saturdays. So that's like the 5th or 6th show on Saturdays they did with local TV. We showed that picture of Eddie Marlin and Jimmy Kent from the Jackson, Tennessee TV. I thought that was interesting, as that is right there. I kind of surprised. It almost looks like with the police officer, that might have been shooting TV at the live event. That doesn't really look like, but it could be a TV. Does that look, Michael, like a TV studio to you right there?
No, that looks like something shot at an arena for a fill-in or something you're going to drop into the show. That's what that picture looked like.
So we're going to go with the opening segment. And this, obviously, Jerry Jarrett's town. Jerry Jarrett opened it up. This is no more of a Jerry Jarrett television. This is boring, folks, but remember, it's a different time. TV was fairly new, and this having wrestling in the TV station Channel 41, and we are going to show the opening and come back and discuss. And this is absolutely fascinating, people. This is May the 5th, 1973, from Championship Wrestling, WDRB TV, Channel 41, Louisville, Kentucky. Look at the announcers, and it's not Lance Russell, and it's not Dave Brown, and here we go.
Welcome Welcome to Championship Wrestling, promoted by Nick Goulis and Roy Welch, this area's only sanctioned NWA wrestling. Now, let's go ringside with your commentators George Goulis and Lynn Rossi.
I'm Len Rossi, and welcome to Live Studio Wrestling from the studios of WDRB TV right here in Louisville, Kentucky. We have an outstanding card lined up for you today on television. My friend George here will tell you all about it.
Okay, we have two tag battles today. In our first tag battle, we have Bobby Hart and Lorenzo Parenti to go against the Japanese team, the Great Fuji and Tara Murasaki. In the main event, the Kangaroos, Al Costello and Don Kent, to go against Leon Chandler and Bill Costello.
George, I think you got a fine card lined up for television. Now I'd like to tell the fans about the big card coming up Tuesday night at Convention Center. We have some outstanding tag matches lined up. The first match will be Terry Garvin and Duke Myers, who you can see right here, and they will be going against an outstanding team, Don Green, and he takes on as his partner the leading, one of the leading Negro heavyweight wrestlers, Charlie Cook. Then you have another
television wasn't too fancy back in the day.
Four of the roughest wrestlers in wrestling.
They're saying this Louisville card, and this Louisville card was a three-match card with a lot of talent.
Now these
see a picture of the fabulous Kangaroos.
And Lorenzo Parenti, two other rough, tough wrestlers.
Bobby Hart and Lorenzo Parenti.
In fact, they'll both be here on television today. Now I have some big news for all you country music fans, all you music lovers. Between intermission, before the main event, we will have Stu Phillips and his group known as the Belledaires. They're Grand Ole Opry stars, they're TV personalities. They will perform at the intermission. They'll be singing many of your favorite country music songs, and I'm sure that all the music fans will enjoy Stu Phillips and his group. Then after the music, after the intermission, we come back to our big main event. The big main event is a return grudge match. It features Tojo Yamamoto, Jackie Fargo, and of course the ever popular Jerry Jarrett. They've asked to get Sam Bass, Jerry Lawler, Jim White back in the ring. This is a return grudge match. There's a lot of hatred between both teams, and this week one big announcement will be a no time limit, no disqualification. George, is there any extra price or anything for the music Tuesday night?
No, Lynn, the price remains the same. It's a great card. Also, Lynn, probably a lot of fans like to know what happened to your arm again.
Oh, George, yes, you know, I had it hurt real bad in a car wreck, both legs, and broke my arm. And the arm was coming along pretty good. I guess I tried to exercise a little too much. I was trying to get it back in shape, and I pulled some ligaments and tendons, so I'll be wearing a sling for a few weeks, I guess.
Well, we hope it's come along fine in the next few weeks.
Thanks a lot, George.
Okay.
Now we'll return to Studio Wrestling after this brief message.
All right, before we get into comments on this mess, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be done right for sure. I want to just on the screen, side by side, Michael St. John and myself. Because that, I think, without a doubt, was the most boringest wrestling open I've ever seen in my life. So we're going to do an open right now, and it's not hard, folks. It's not hard, folks. So we are going to do an open. I'll start, Michael, and I'll throw it to you. Obviously, folks, we haven't thought about this in advance. So the thing, it's America's favorite sport. It's championship wrestling. Yellow again, everybody. Ding, ding, ding. We're ready to go with championship wrestling right here on Channel 41 in Louisville, Kentucky for a big Saturday morning of championship wrestling. Glad, tickled to death. It's a plum pleasing pleasure to have with us on this program my co-host, the legend in the future, Michael St. John. Michael, you excited about this event today on Championship Wrestling?
Boy, oh boy, Randy, I'll tell you, this is a great card because today we've got two great tag team matches. And we got a surprise coming up this coming Tuesday night at the Louisville Gardens that we're going to reveal. But boy, we've got opening match action with Lorenzo Parenti and what was this? Bobby Hart. All right. When I say that, I think Tommy Boyce and Bobby Hart. Sorry about that. But anyway, Lorenzo Parenti and Bobby Hart are going to be in action. We got the fabulous Kangaroos, George Cannon, who's always a troublemaker, plus that big main event coming, tag team action today, right here on Channel 41.
We'll be talking a lot about the main event coming up Tuesday night at the Convention Center. Listen to this, Michael. It'll be Jerry Lawler, Jim White, the Southern Tag Team Champion, teaming with that Weasley manager, Sam Bass, against Fargo, Tojo, and Jared. Do you think we'll have enough seats for the people Tuesday night? What a card Tuesday night.
And you got to add to that, no disqualification, no time limit. It may last until 1 o'clock in the morning. These guys have a major, major hatred for each other. And when they get in the ring, I doubt we're going to see a tag match at all, Randy. I think we're going to see a big old brawl, whether it's in the ring or out of the ring. No time limit, no disqualification Tuesday night in the Louisville Gardens. No advance in prices.
Hey, excited about it, excited about this show. We'll take a break and we will come back. Absolutely, with the opening tag team match of Championship Wrestling. Michael and I will be back after this.
We sort of did that on the fly.
I guess that's my point.
You didn't even have to put that in the notes. I didn't know that was coming up. That wasn't even on the format.
No, I didn't think about it till I saw how bad they were. I'm thinking Al Tuttle was telling me to turn down the audio and us speak over, and I wanted Al and everybody else to see, man, the energy level. So what happened? Was that done? By that point, it was on a Thursday afternoon, and certainly you weren't going to send Lance Russell, Dave Brown, Harry Thornton, or Sterling Brewer. But poor Lynn, look, I thought George did better than Lynn. I thought that was bad.
Well, look, George's mic technique was horrible because he came on and he had a strong voice and then he backed off the microphone and he was talking like this. But, and truth be known, this was 72, I think you said.
May the 5th, 1973.
73. Okay. That was a weekend. I had 2 weeks before I graduated college. And I remember those shows back then. The Hippodrome had burned. Wrestling in Nashville had moved to the women's building at the fairgrounds. It was being renovated. So the wrestling shows in Nashville for about a whole year were at Father Ryan Gymnasium at Father Ryan High School, right across from Vanderbilt on Division Street in Nashville. Birmingham was the lead dog of the territory back then. With the back then, the City Auditorium, it wasn't even the Boutwell Auditorium there. They were running Huntsville on Friday nights, and Louisville had not had wrestling for a long time. Then they got wrestling, and when they got wrestling, and Jimmy Cornette knows the history of the dates and all that, but they didn't get one show. They got 3 shows at one time. They got the Indianapolis show with Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder's workers. They got Nick and Roy starting up on 41. And this was right after Wave 3 dropped wrestling. And I forget why. I think it was a change in ownership, and Wave 3 dropped wrestling, and they went to 41, which is now the Fox affiliate up there. Pretty good station. And they were getting wrestling from out of Cincinnati because the wrestling in Cincinnati was on Channel 17 or Channel 19 WXIX TV, and they were running the Sheik's show out of Detroit. And XIX's TV's sister station was Channel 27 in Louisville. So you all of a sudden went from zero TV of wrestling in Louisville to you had it on 41, you had it on 27, and then Dick the Bruiser had it on, I want to say he wasn't on Wave and he wasn't on HAS. He was on the other station up there that I can't remember. But anyway, it went from 0 to 3, and then ultimately it, ended up being the Goulas Welch territory that once Jerry started running everything.
Now, here's a comment, and this one thing we want to educate people too, because it's false information. And I've just met George once and never saw a live event. David Smith says if we could put that on the screen right now, Adam, say, okay, Michael and Randy, you guys were better. But all the negative you hear about George in various places, he wasn't near as bad as thought it'd be. And everybody out there that says George Goulas was the worst wrestling talent in the history of the business, Michael, just wasn't true.
No, it wasn't. There are two things about George. Number one, he had a speech impediment from birth, and it wasn't a speech where he didn't have a cleft palate or anything like that. He had baby talk. He had baby talk, and Nick talked about it often. And he worked his way. They went to therapy for it. He went and worked with a speech therapist, and he got a lot better and a lot better. And now today, you'd never know. I heard George on an interview about 2 weeks ago. You'd never know it. But the thing about George is George was coddled and babied by his mama. And Nick was trying to make him a man and trying to get him into the business. And, because Nick knew he wasn't going to be along forever. And he wanted George to be the heir apparent, obviously. And George just, he didn't mature until later in life. And then once he, crossed over Jackass Bridge, life was
Pat Trammell, this is the first you've ever seen that. That's Lynn Rossi, who I know you're a big fan of as a wrestler. I don't think so much as an announcer, and George Goulas. I think this is just fantastic. I am a big fan of studio wrestling, no matter where it was. This is the first, just a week or so ago, the first that I've ever seen of Louisville TV on Channel 41. Your quick thoughts about that?
Well, I'm a big fan of it too, and I've seen a lot of stuff on Birmingham, and I've seen a lot of stuff from Chattanooga and other places. Wrestling didn't start with WCW and WWF, right, on TV. That was something else, man. That reminded me of one of my science projects in like 5th grade, where they had the poster board up there, and you write the headline on it. That was the thing I did notice. I like George in the white tie, and then Lynn's collars were this big. Those were some happening cats right there, man.
What's funny, and you said the same thing. I think what happened, Lynn had flown in from Nashville, and the air got under his collars, and that's how he flew in.
Oh, he could have flown, the whole way.
And Coach, I know you probably will notice, Nick used to take the publicity shots of the wrestlers and do a storyboard of what was coming up in the towns. Okay. If a wrestler was part of the tag team and left, what he would do is he would cut the picture.
And paste it over there.
He'd paste it up, so it would be Lynn Rossi, and then Bearcat Brown would be there, and then be whoever his partner was, and it was hilarious. But they did that. To be honest with you, they did that right on up until around 77 or 78 before they started doing the chroma key.
Now, we saw stuff from 1973, and Adam Dunn has found the video, and I have not seen this. This is from 1991 from Fox 41, a promo for that program, and we'll watch that right now on Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Hello, I'm Jeff Jarrett, and if you want to see body slams, if you want to see drop kicks, if you want to see the wildest, the craziest, but the best wrestling action there is in the country, well then tune in right here to USWA Wrestling every Sunday morning, 11 a.m. to Fox 41 WDRB Louisville. And if you want to see live action, come down to the Gardens on Tuesday night, 7:30 bell time. But right here, tune in to WDRB Louisville, 11 o'clock Sunday morning.
Sunday morning at 11 on Fox 41.
Chris, what did you think about this whole mess?
Well, I'm going to have to be honest, guys. I thank God that that's not the first time I ever watched wrestling was that crap. I'd have never been a fan. After I woke up, I'd have turned the channel and went to something else. Like that would not have kept my interest. That was god awful. I never saw George and Lynn wrestle, but that was terrible. Two ways about it. So I am thankful that I didn't watch that when I was young. Jeff just did that advertisement, was 50 times better than that intro to that show, just off of what I'm sure he ad-libbed that, just like you two ad-libbed what y'all did a while ago. I never watched Lynn. I know Lynn could wrestle. I've heard y'all talk about him. He wasn't ever on my radar much. But to me, I've always said this. When people are successful, their number one thing they have is self-awareness. And if I were Lynn Rossi and George Goulas, I'd have to know I sucked as an announcer and take my ass off the screen. get somebody else. I can't do it.
Well, now that you're reinforcing with what I said, Deacon Jones got mad at me earlier. He said, Mr. Randy Hills, please don't be a hater. We all had to crawl before we could walk. Well, I guarantee you that they were never able to be good wrestling announcers. And I will tell the truth. You can't call it. I am an expert of professional wrestling television. Nobody will doubt that, Mr. Jones. Absolutely 100% expert. And I'm telling you right now, if I don't like something, I will tell you about. And that was cool to watch. I got a kick out of it to see it, but it was horrifying.
I would love to. I'd love to hear him call a match.
I want to say one thing.
Do
Randy,
what, Michael?
This will epitomize it, Randy. I would take Clay Conrad and Bob Young over that crap right there. That tells you right there.
That tells me absolutely. And Adam has a comment that I'm not going to repeat there. Be nice, Adam. Deacon Jones won't like that. What did you ask for, Michael?
I'd love to hear some of their commentary on play-by-play because I haven't seen that particular tape. I will say, in George's defense, is that he found me to bring me into the wrestling business in Nashville. He was at and I've told the story before. I was a ring announcer for 3 matches. The main event, Tom Ernesto, who was doing their play-by-play, who wasn't that bad, except he didn't have a lot of enthusiasm about him. He was a good wrestling commentator, knew everything that he needed to know, but wasn't enthusiastic. And when George told his daddy about me, and they threw the microphone to me that first night I was there, and I did it. I guess it was an on the air or audition on the fly. But the thing about I pride myself on Mr. Nick telling me this all the time. He always told me, he said, you call a wrestling match like you call a football game. He said, you call it like it's an event, like it's a sporting event, and it's just like a football game or just like a baseball game. He said, when I watch TV and I hear you on the microphone, he says, you don't have the deepest voice in the world. He says, but you get excited. And when you're supposed to get excited and you put things in when it's a lull and you're ad-libbing. And he paid me a compliment like 6 weeks after I started. And then, of course, I told you the biggest compliment I ever got was from Jackie Fargo. And the first time I ever met him. And he told me. And I'll always remember that. I don't think I was a great wrestling announcer, nowhere close. But at the same time, I was proud at least to carry on the excitement and the tradition of what professional wrestling is.
I think Rodney Crowder is saying that they replaced Lynn Rossi with Tom Ernesto, and then obviously Michael St. John came in the picture. And
by the way, thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, sir, for that compliment.
I am not going to show this entire match, but I think you'll be interested in who ring announced the match. You've already seen him, as a matter of fact. So on the Louisville tape, we'll just, again, we're not going to, because I can't stand to watch all of this. I just can't. But this is a tag match in Louisville, Kentucky, and we are going to watch that right now from May the 5th, 1973, Channel 41, WDRB. This is, I think, them pitching to the break, the ring announcement, then the start of the match. Here we go. Talking Memphis Wrestling. No, I'm not. That's wrong. As we stop that, Adam, is because I had already taken that off the screen, and we will fix that right now. Michael, give me a minute. Talk a little bit about wrestling television announcer, and maybe a little bit more about how we did that, because we'd have both been better if we'd have been prepared. We didn't even have a lineup in front of us.
No, I was working off memory, and at my age, my memory is not as good as it used to be. But I'll tell you about announcers then and now, if I can. And Pat and Coach, please chime in on this. Back then, your announcers were invested in the wrestling matches. I mean, it wasn't. I came on TV. I never came on TV more than one page of. This is my script for tomorrow morning's show, by the way. But I never came on the TV with more than one page of notes. It was a lineup. I would have some little notes in the margin as to what the promoter or what the matchmaker wanted me to get over in that match, or pre-sell the Monday night show or whatever it was. But I never had more than this. When the wrestling announcers come on stage today, and I think I got one under here. I do. They come on with one of these filled with the whole show prep, the whole show, match to match to match. And not only does it break down what match it is, it breaks down what happens in the match. And they basically are constantly, and that's why you don't see a lot of the announcers on camera while the match is going on, because they're reading out of the book. And that's because they have writers that are professional writers, some from Hollywood, some from other places, that write the wrestling shows for television. And they don't have announcers that are dedicated and involved and passionate about what they do. It's a job for them. And you can, in my opinion, you can tell that.
Let's watch a little bit, and this might not be queued up exactly right, but we'll go back to Louisville, May the 5th, 1973, WRB TV.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another NWA wrestling card held here at WDRB TV, Channel 41 here in Louisville. These matches are promoted by Nick Goudas and Roy Welch. They're under rules and regulations of the Kentucky Athletic Commission. Ring officials also signed by the Kentucky Athletic Commission, and these are the only recognized and sanctioned National Wrestling Alliance here in Louisville, Kentucky. Our first match, a tag battle, one fall, 15-minute time limit. In this corner, total weight, 465 pounds, from Japan, the great Fuji and Taro Murasaki. In the opposite corner, total weight, 478 pounds, the Continental Warriors, Bobby Hart and Lorenzo Parenti. The referee, Joe Morris.
Thank you very much, George. This is the first match on today's program. Should be an outstanding tag match. 4 good-sized men in the ring. Bobby Hart, 230 pounds. Lorenzo Parenti, 240. A rough, tough Japanese team, the great Fuji and Taro Murasaki.
To answer Nicholas, I met Don West one time, the TNA announcer. I thought he was a pitch man. I thought he did real good.
Giving instructions to both teams, no hair pulling, no hitting with the fist, point of the elbow, of course illegal. And
Michael, this isn't the original Mr. Fuji, is it?
Into the throat, also illegal.
No, it was. This was another Mr. Fuji. One thing about Lorenzo Parenti, by the way, had a great Italian restaurant in Nashville, over at Woodmont Boulevard and Nolensville Road for years. Great Italian food. It was called Parenti's, by the way.
And almost
good name. How many people do you think's in the studio? About 40?
Man, you know, a lot of fans last
maybe more than that.
Stu Phillips
40, 50, somewhere in there. It's just that one side. I don't think they have fans on the other side, do they?
One of the top Gun Ole Opry stars and TV personalities will perform an intermission. So this is the Tuesday. Stu Phillips will be there, and we do have an interview with him later on in the program.
Very good, George.
How many of you have ever heard of Stu Phillips?
That was a good takeover.
I have not.
He stepped over the arm.
And I'm a country music fan.
He's a Canadian country singer and was a member of the Opry. And he was as terrible as this.
And a good hip lock by Lorenzo Parenti.
He fit right in.
A takeover, roll over on top.
This is old school wrestling right here.
Fuji.
Actually, the wrestling match is good. Or pretty good.
Parenti trapped in the corner temporarily. The Japs working them over.
Japs.
At the eyes.
Yeah, they referred to Charlie Cook as a Negro wrestler. They called him the Japs. This is obviously not in the last 30 years.
Oh, no.
Nor was it ever politically correct, but they used it anyway.
Michael, don't you, Randy, agree that part of the lack of political correctness was part of being a heel?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that.
Makes the tag.
And let's go ahead and come out.
Throwing him under the lake.
You know, Tom Murasaki may be small and built, but boy, his arms and his hands and judo chops make up for that.
Let's
kill it. I was telling the fans these other 3 men are real good-sized big men. Bobby Hart looking real good now. flips Murasaki into Fuji, hits Fuji with a forearm, and a big knee lift, and down the Japanese star goes.
On May the 7th of 2024, we're doing Talking Memphis Wrestling. We're showing this video from WDRB TV 41 from May the 5th, 1973. You're the banker and the mathematician. So how long has it been since May the 7th of 2024 compared to May the 5th of 1973, Pat? 50 years?
51.
Yes, 51.
Hole now is broken. Bobby Hart.
Let me put that in perspective. The year I was born, it would be 1910.
Daggers chopped. And Murasaki in.
Before World War I.
That went over my head.
Well, 50 years from today is then, but 50 years from when I was, 50 years is a long time.
The other side of the ring did not see it.
A long time, absolutely. And this isn't a bad match, and we'll come out of that right. We'll come out of the video right then.
Randy, help me out here. What Lorenzo Breno and Bobby Hart under a mask, weren't they Mephisto and Dante?
Yes, I think they were.
Series of vicious blows.
This looks very much like a Birmingham Channel 42 Saturday night kind of match.
Slowed the Japs down. Parenti can get mean, can he, George?
You got a pretty good crowd there. I'd say more, it's like 60, maybe 75 people.
He's strong as a bull, I'll guarantee.
The video being that old, this is good video.
A lot of action here in our first match.
The match,
absolutely right.
Parenti hollers for the knee. Bobby Hart
And the
puts
match
the
is
knee up,
pretty good.
does the Jap into
Actual
the
match
ring,
itself.
and knocked to the
it really is.
A vicious stop with those number 12.
I think this was the early days of when they started going to videotape. This was after the 8 millimeter, 16 millimeter. I think this has got to be a Studio Master videotape. I would think. Maybe a 4-inch.
It was something I never seen before.
Here's the shoe.
Is that right? That's terrible, George. I know there's a lot of hatred between those 6 men. Believe me, a lot of hatred. In the ring now, Murasaki and Fuji working Lorenzo Parenti over. Vicious short karate chops into the neck, into the throat area.
I was selling the show today to Randy West, and I don't think Randy's watching tonight. I hadn't seen his comment.
Referee runs over, breaks.
Anybody heard from Randy?
Warns Murasaki.
I've not seen him come up on the screen.
By Fuji, a strong body slam. The Japanese could not hold them for the count. And a punch to the midsection.
I agree with you, the video quality, but again, I think this is a Studio Master, and they probably would dub this show before they would send it out to another affiliate.
Punches, chops, a knee to the back of the neck.
So I'm going to ask an unusual question. Based on the style of wrestling, who's the heel?
Flying mare and a real
the Japanese.
Good hip
I know that,
the
but Bobby Hart and Parenti knee kicked, punched. There's not been any. There's no evidence that there's a faces. Because then everybody hated the Japanese because it was only 25 years after World War II.
Almost had
that backslide move was a babyface move, but you're right. Randy West, what do you think about this old action from 1973? As you remember, Randy, we were on, after we left Wave TV, we went to WDRB TV channel 41.
And the bull comes in. Lorenzo Parenti, vicious punches and chops.
I'm sure that video promo Adam had us watch earlier from Jeff Jarrett promoting WDRB. I'm sure Eddie put it together, and I looked at it. I thought we could show that again as Lorenzo and Bobby Hart wins the match, and we'll come out of that video right now. It's 8:30, man, an hour and a half left in the show, and we are going to reset because Michael didn't get a chance to watch it earlier. Adam's been working this week as he did a revised open for Talking Memphis Wrestling, and we're going to watch that now. We'll reset with about 30 minutes left in this show tonight, Talking Memphis Wrestling. After this, we'll talk about Backlash from the WWE. Lots to say about that when we come back after this great Adam Dunn open.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guests.
Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame's how he ended it, and pretty soon, in maybe a month and a half, we have a announcement about the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame. Great work as usual, Michael, from Adam.
He's incredible. I mean, and he does this. He's amazing with it. That's great stuff. Great edits. Awesome.
Chris, thoughts on that open?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, the things he's done with it and the things Adam can do, I piggyback off what Michael said. He's amazing, got a great talent for that, and does a great job.
Pat?
I mean, I love how he brings in the WMC from Channel 5. I mean, that has to be from the 60s or early 70s, and just brings it up through the history of Memphis wrestling. That's great.
Let me add it. The boat, Andy, you remember that? The boat came on at 6 in the morning.
Yeah, the tugboat.
TV went off at midnight and came on at 6. So the boat came on at 6. That's how you knew it was coming on the air, was that boat.
One thing I wanted to say about that other match we just watched, I've never seen that finishing move before, and Lynn called it a suplex.
Yeah, it wasn't a suplex.
It wasn't a suplex.
It's a half Nelson roll.
Okay.
It's the half Nelson roll, and it's normally a quick finish. It's sort of like the jackknife or the small package. It's a quick boom, 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 and that was a little slower in developing. The only thing, and watching that and seeing a lot since then, I think the boys are laying them in more strongly now than they did back then, because some of those punches you could just see. I mean, he'd come flying, and then all of a sudden it'd get into slow motion, and then he'd make contact. Same way with that knee lift. It was a knee lift, but it was more like put your head on my knee and I'll flip it off kind of thing, instead of actually hitting. There were some things that bothered me about the execution. That was a small ring, Randy, if I'm not mistaken. That was just a little small spot show kind of ring, right?
I'd say 14 inches.
Yeah, 14 feet.
14 feet, yeah. We're not 14
and
inches.
The turnbuckles, when he sent the Japanese player or wrestler into the buckle, and the boy took it, you could see when he hit the buckle with his shoulders, he sort of tensed up, because it just looked like where the buckle was wrapped up with electrical tape.
Pat?
I have a question, getting back to, we were talking about wrestling announcing, and Michael, you showed the book. Did I hear this right? I think I heard Lance say one time that he did not know what the outcome of the matches were going to be. Is that usual, Michael, in those days?
I honestly can tell you that in shows that I did with Lance, we knew what was going to occur.
Okay.
But we didn't know it in detail. It would be like, okay, so and so is going to go over. He's going to hit him with the small package, and there's going to be outside interference, and then there's going to be some afterbirth, and then that would be all we would know. And then we'd see it coming, and we would normally be able to catch the go home signal, because all the wrestling back there, Randy, you are a master of this. All the wrestlers had a signal that they had, and in Nick's territory, you got a minute to go home. And what Nick would do is he would come out and cross his arms where the referee would see him, and he'd cross his arms. And when he crossed his arms, that means tell the boys to go home. And in one of the in a couple of times that I had to give the signal, my signal was to put, I would always have a pencil or a pen in my hand writing things to the audience. And if I ever brought it up toward my mouth or put it to my mouth, or I'm watching it with him, that was the signal for the referee, because they tell me in the headset, they tell me in the IFB, hey, they got a minute and a half, tell them to go home. And I put my pen or my pencil to my mouth or to the side of my mouth, referee would pick on it, tell the wrestlers, and then they'd go home. So, and Randy, I know you probably had a go home signal too.
Yeah, I just told the referee, because in the Power Pro days, first of all, most of the time on the Channel 5 days in Memphis, it was Eddie Marlin would come out of that curtain and grab his tie, and that was the cue. At times, Mr. Coffee, Guy Coffee, did that, and when I got there, I did it as well. However, by the Power Pro days, we had the referees with we bought a walkie-talkie, and they had the earpiece in their ear, and I had the other walkie-talkie up in the control room, and I would tell them a minute, and I could be more specific. Tell them 45 seconds. Tell them 20 seconds to break. Go home, go effing home. Because television became more sophisticated. I looked at the clock, and it is 8:26. I said earlier it was 8:30, and it wasn't 8:30, because we talked 10 minutes after that. I want to tell you right now, and Adam, we have pictures to back this up in no particular order, that Saturday afternoon, WWE's first pay-per-view since the unbelievable successful WrestleMania weekend that grossed $38 million. That's $38 million, folks. Since then, no pay-per-views until Backlash. And they're smart with this TKO. And it's not like the WWE has not gone out of the country before, but the model of TKO is do premium live events out of the country this past Saturday night. It's the best crowd reactions I've absolutely ever seen in my life. In one match, it was so freaking loud, it shook the cameras. It was amazing. The crowd singing and having a good time and into it and trying not to take over the show. That started with the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Tama Tongo, in a street fight match where they defeated Randy Orton and also Kevin Owens. That's Tango Loa then interfered in that match. That was the first match of the night. The second match was a women's triple threat with Bayley retaining against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. The third match, and I think there's one graphic with several of the matches listed together, and probably my second favorite match, and absolutely without a doubt, the best entrance and the best reaction of anybody. And I was glad to see it, because Pat and we talked about it. I was disappointed in WrestleMania's match between Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, brother against brother. And Jey getting over main event Jey Uso and his music, and the people pop at it and all that. They did a fantastic entrance through the crowd that was just unbelievable, just absolutely unbelievable. Had a great match, because I'm telling you, even though he gets a great entrance, if that match wasn't very good to great, and it was great, as Damon Priest defending and successfully the championship with a lot of outside interference. Jey Uso redeemed himself, and that was a tremendous, tremendous match. Then what I thought was the worst match of the night was Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill over the Kabuki Warriors, and Jade was carried by Bianca, and Jade is just not ready, but she is going to be a tremendous. As my phone is going crazy right now, as Al says, to reinforce what I'm saying. What an entrance from Jay Uso, and the crowd was something else. The thing I liked about this premium live event is that Pat and I have done after premium live events with AEW, and it's a 7 or 8 hour show. This was a 5 match card, and they had room for this first defense by Cody Rhodes. Then we have that specific graphic of Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. AJ, a former WWE heavyweight champion, and he hadn't been in the title picture in a long time. Cody needed to go over, and this was absolutely fantastic. I would say Cody and Styles was my favorite match, but Jey Uso and Priest was my second, and there wasn't much difference in the two. It was just a tremendous deal. Before I throw it to everybody else in the panel, I will say this: being the main event guy, being the champion, is not easy. After going for almost 3 years with Roman Reigns as a champion, it was imperative that they get this right. Now, business since WrestleMania has been tremendous. Cody Rhodes merchandise is tremendous. Now, he's not a typical babyface because he dresses fancier than most babyfaces. He uses bigger words than most babyfaces, but it's all in the story and the fact that he can work. They spent the first 7 or 8 minutes of the match with headlocks and takedowns and top wrist locks. It was a wrestling match. And then waited to probably 18, 20 minutes into the match before it spilled outside because it built. Another thing that this is important to me what I'm fixing to say, and I hope the fans here at Team Hales can get this. You probably sick of me saying this is a business, because I know fans don't want to hear this. Just like you want to talk about the great baseball game or football game, NFL game, or the NBA playoffs going on, but those are businesses too, and it's about making money for the ball players and for the owners and everybody else. Cody was doing an interview, and it was an internet thing, and he was a very open thing. And obviously, he ain't working. This was the biggest thing that he accomplished in his professional life. And he talks about it, and you can believe it because it is. It absolutely is the most important thing. And the host of this talk show asked him a question and said, Cody, you say you like to think long term. The long term, what's the legacy of Cody Rhodes? What do you want the legacy of Cody Rhodes to be? And his answer was very impressive to me. So, Chris, we'll start with you. What do you think that answer was from Cody Rhodes on his first, before he even had his first defense of the title? Because this happened maybe a week after he won the title, and they asked him long term, what do you want your legacy to be when it's all over? Any guesses?
I think, just what I know about what I've read about him and all that, his father is important to him, and being the best worker. And it's modern times, but being the best worker is important to him, being seen in that light as someone who was like his father, but brought it into the modern era, so to speak. I don't know how to articulate that.
No, that's good.
But I think that is important to him. But on the personal side of things, being a dad and a husband is important to Cody.
And he started crying when he was talking about that. Yeah. We're strictly talking about wrestling. You were close, Chris, but that's not exactly what he said that got over with me. Pat, what do you think? What he wants to be remembered for?
I mean, what just hits me in my mind is the greatest world champion of all time. But
And that's close, Michael.
I think continuing the Rhodes legacy and bringing the championship to new heights, echoing a little bit of what Pat and Coach just said, I would think. But Cody's his own man. I think we all will agree that unlike his brother and even unlike in a way Dusty, I think Cody's his own man and walks to his own drum, beat of his own drum.
What he said is, and some of that everybody said some of that, but he put it a little quicker and summed it all up. This is what he wants his legacy. And as a wrestling promoter, this is what I want a wrestler to say to me. I don't want him to say, man, I had 7 or 18 7-star matches from Dave Meltzer, man, or I had 37-star matches. I don't want him to say, I held the world title for 2 years. I won the world title and held it for 2 years. What Cody Rhodes says, that he wants to be the wrestler that generated the most revenue, the most income, had more people in the seats watching Cody Rhodes than anybody else in the history of the business. That is Cody Rhodes' main goal. We'll see if he can do it. Certainly, he's right in the cusp of, and it took a lot of people, certainly, but right now, it's the hottest it's ever been. So I want you guys to speak of Cody, and I want you to speak of that France crowd, of how I wish you guys would have seen that, and maybe you saw some of the crowd reactions. It was just unbelievable. I think I'll start with Pat on that. Talk about Cody won't draw more money and put more seats, more asses in the seats than anybody else. Talk about that point and the French crowd.
Well, I mean, I think it was smart for them to get out of the country after that, and there hadn't been a lot done in France that I'm aware of. I know TNA did some England tours, and I think WWE has done international tours even further in. And I wish I had seen the thing. The question that I have is, and Randy, you're a booker, and none of us are. How long can he keep that belt? I mean, how long do you let? I mean, generally in my lifetime, the babyface chases the belt, and that's part of it for a long time. How long can he keep that belt?
Now, we're just over a 3-year run with the heel with Roman Reigns for the world title. Also, if you look at the WWF history to the WWF to the WWE, for the longest time, Bruno Sammartino held it for 8 years and then lost it and then won it back quickly and held it for another 6. Bob Backlund held it a long time. Hulk Hogan held it a long time. And so it was not a heel territory. It was built as a babyface territory. And a lot of times with Bruno, Pedro Morales, it was an ethnic champion. Bruno for the Italian and Pedro Morales for a Puerto Rican. It was just all different. It really was. It was just completely different. So that just gives you the philosophy. In recent years, they went the heel route. I heard a podcast from Kevin Nash, and his co-host said Hill should always be the champion. No, not necessarily. You just have to determine, and sometimes you're not right. And Kevin said, I agree with what Kevin Nash says, and I don't agree with all of his wrestling opinion. He says, right now, it's the best house show business they've ever done, the best merchandising they've ever done. The people gets what they want after a 2-year story. And until and look at that unbelievable crowd in France.
Wow.
Just unbelievable. I agree with David. The production staff wasn't ready for it. I thought it didn't bother me. The sound was terrible. The crowd just drowned out the thing. So my answer is you go with Cody to two things: till he quit drawing, till it goes down, till the ratings go down, or till you have that hot heel. And believe me, they have a plan. And they're in good shape right now. They have Cody as the lead babyface. They have CM Punk. They have Seth Rollins. They have Jay Russo, and they have others as well. It's a good babyface crew. But obviously, they're building right now with the Bloodline. Roman Reigns, when he comes back, can come back as a babyface because his family's still in the Bloodline for him. It's a good problem to have. So my number one answer would be, as long as it's up, you keep going and you're feeding credible champions. And with AJ, he wasn't these days in people's mind was a top guy, but he worked a top match. He worked that style, and he worked a main event quality match that was absolutely tremendous, fantastic. I think you just go with it till you see indications that something needs to change. Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. And the line between heels and baby faces are a lot closer now than they've ever been.
Sure. And just like I said, Cody, not your typical baby face, because he says big words and he wears a suit, and he has a tattoo, ugly tattoo on his neck that's distracting his heck, but he's over. The people like him. They like the song and everything about it. So your comments about France, about Backlash, about Cody Rhodes, Chris. Then we'll go to Michael.
Well, I think it was a brilliant strategy to go to France and go across the water and out of the country after WrestleMania was so big. And I don't know when the last time they ran in France, any type of wrestling show. Those fans are starved for that.
Yeah, it's new.
And so they're excited. And so it gives them a great feedback in that country and a great draw, but it also keeps them energized on social media in the United States. Everything's on a positive swing. It keeps the momentum going from WrestleMania. So you've gone a month or however long it's been, and you've maintained the momentum going into the next thing. Now, as far as Cody goes, I mean, I'm not, obviously you're the booker, not me, but I think you keep him on top till people don't want to see him anymore. And to me, that match that they had the other day was the equivalent of the territory days. Cody came in and wrestled AJ Styles, who's a credible opponent, but he's just almost going to beat him. Just come up a little short. No threat to beat him. He wasn't really a threat. Like, nobody went in there and bought a ticket and said, AJ Styles is beating Cody. But the match was it's like the old territory days where the local baby face that was going to be there next week barely lost to Ric Flair or barely lost to Bockwinkel. It kind of had that feel to it from back in the day, in my opinion.
Michael, real quick, and I have one video we're going to show today. So take about 3 minutes, if you would. Take it about 3 minutes to comment on France and on what we're talking about with Cody.
I think Pat and Coach hit it right on the nail. I think they hit it right on the nail. And the fact of the matter is, in Coach, and in the philosophy that Sam Munchnick and the NWA had back in those days, was they'd bring the champion in for a week to run the territory, and every match was to help put your hot guy, whether it was a babyface or a heel, to put him over. They never won the title, but it was to put him over. And that's exactly what they went back to. Two things. Number one, just like you said, France is a hotbed. France is one of those countries, as I understand, they have all sorts of laws and tariffs and everything about live events and people coming in and doing shows and stuff. I just know that from the music business. So you don't get a lot of it. You get some, but you don't get a lot. And this was probably the biggest professional wrestling event in the history of the country. So that was good. It's sort of like the old WCCW when they went to Israel. for the first time, and they went to Egypt for the first time. They were over like Rover in Egypt and pulling big numbers and big monies out of the Fertile Crescent way back then. So if you get into what I call a virgin territory or virgin country, the wrestling fans are there, whether it's in France or the United States or Mexico or Puerto Rico or wherever you want to put it. I look for, and I think it's going to happen, and we're going to see it happen with this new marriage or this new renovation, if you would, of the WWE. They're going to be in Russia. You watch it. There's going to be a show in Moscow, and it's going to be huge, and it's going to blow. How much has wrestling now become the detente of politics? Back when it was boxing, when Ali was the champion, he fought all over the world. It was detente. He made friends in every country. Ali Boumbaïa in the middle of Africa. You know, if you guys ever have the chance to go to Louisville, do not miss, and going to the Derby Museum is cool, but don't miss the Ali Museum. It's one of my favorite museums in this whole country because it not only tells about the story of Ali as a fighter and a boxer, it tells about him as a humanitarian and what he did for the politics of the world. And that's sort of where the WWE is right now. And I think it's just going to get bigger and better. And as far as Cody Rhodes, Randy, you're the booker, and you're absolutely right. When he stops drawing money, when the merch sales go down, when the shows aren't as hot as they are now, then maybe it's time for a turn.
Man, have you guys enjoyed as much as I have? Because the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been heavy on the 70s. And everybody thumbs up about the last several weeks show. I know Chris hadn't been with us much, but Pat's been with us every week, and most of them, Michael has been on here. 1980 was a weird year because Jerry Lawler had a broken leg, and then of course that began the Jimmy Hart era. What do you do with a racehorse that breaks his leg? You shoot him. Jerry Lawler's dead to me. In 1980, they did a lot of different things and interesting things, and we'll watch a video, and this is an 18-minute video, and we'll air right now, and our mics will be live for this if we want to talk about this here as we watch that video again from 1980. June the 7th, 1980, Memphis television. A monumental day in Memphis wrestling history, part 1. I would do my Lynn Rossi and George Goulas impersonation, but I don't got it on it. And this is just a fired up hot interview.
Get it all back in there.
They're awful tough when there's 3-on-1, Daddy. You just get him back out here because I can beat Ferris, and I can beat Latham, and I can beat Danny Davis 1-on-1, and they know it, and I'm not leaving.
Look, Bill, you're
cut right here. No, sir. You stay right there, Billy.
Come on, Billy. Dundee wanting a match with individually Ferris Latham. He is cut and bleeding so bad there's no his nose is... Hey, Bill! Come on, man, we have had more of these guys in the cotton picking ring. Bill, you get it later. Come on, Billy. Bill. Come on, will you? Hey, come on, Eddie. Can we get him out of there and get something going in? Oh. Hey. Hey, come on, Eddie. Let's get
One of
this
them had
thing.
to come out here and wrestle. I tried to do a straight back too,
Well, we got an unscheduled fight is what we've got. Come on, Dundee.
Boy, can Danny Davis take it off or not?
Bill Dundee just beating the stew out of Danny Davis in there. Referee Jerry Calhoun coming out. Ah, no. We don't need that. Come on, Eddie.
I don't think no room for who the hell needs it.
Get him
It doesn't
together.
have to be all things. As we watch this huge angle with the blonde bombers, Larry Latham, the Future Moondog,
On Dundee.
playing fans to keep the Poppy Talk fans, Danny Davis, and they're getting Eddie Marlin down.
Eddie Marlin
Pop
comes in,
Eddie.
remember.
Eddie hip tosses
Eddie,
him down. He
former
goes around
wrestler
again.
himself,
Promoter Eddie Marlin.
grabs
Oh!
Danny Davis threw powder right into Eddie Marlin's eyes as Ferris and Latham, and Davis attacking him. Davey, can you help Eddie? See if he's going to get hurt in there. He can't see. See if you can get him out. In the ring. Davis, will you get these guys out of here? You're going to end up not wrestling in this area anymore.
Look! Eddie Marlin wanted a match. Look, he's going to get it. He's going to get a match. They wanted one-on-one. Look, baby.
Just get those guys out
We're
of here.
giving them this match today. 2-on-1, baby. 1 free of charge.
Get them out of there.
They asked for it. Now they got it.
That's exactly what I'd expect out of you. 2-on-1. There's no win in the world. Jerry Jarrett comes roaring in. Jerry, I think most of you wrestling fans know, is Eddie Marlin's son-in-law. Jerry, for the last 3 years, has been involved in the office, and he's not involved now. Danny Davis nails him with that canteen. Dundee tied up in a rope. Jerry Callen. Okay, Danny. That's enough of it. Now just get it out. Jerry got his belt off. He's flailing away. At the Bombers. Jarrett pounding as he goes after Wayne Ferris. Latham and Davis leave. Jarrett's got him now. Okay, Jerry, that's enough. That's good. Okay.
Oh, this is great.
Bill Dundee. I tell you what, we'll try to get the Sonny King match with David McGee in just a moment. Let's take another break at this point, and then we'll be back. We'll be back into action in just a moment. Let's take a break.
Let's come out of that, Adam. As we're watching June of 1980, and that's just absolute tremendous stuff. Chris, quick comments about that chaos that we saw. And I know you watch the format, and I know we're close to time, so quick thoughts here. And then I'll know you love it. I know you love Dennis Condry and David Schultz. We'll play that video too. But real quick comments about what we just saw.
All right. So we watched the video earlier, Lynn Rossi and George Goulas. Do you see the difference that an announcer makes? He's beating the stew out of Danny Davis. I mean, there you go. There's the difference. If you watch that clip and listen to Lance, a blind person just saw a better match just because Lance was calling the match.
No doubt, and that is great comments. Real quick, Pat.
I can't improve on that. Chris hit it right in the head.
Michael?
Ditto. I mean, you can't say any more. I just love the fact when you watch Memphis wrestling, you're going to see a brawl. And that's what made it what it was. And that's what wrestling is missing today.
No doubt about it. We'll continue with 1980 video next week. But I wanted, because Chris is not able, hopefully, Chris, the rest of the summer will be here much more often. But growing up as a young guy in Jonesboro, Arkansas, Dennis Condry, David Schultz, certainly top tag team. And this is a pretty entertaining interview from Dr. D, before he's Dr. D and Dennis Condry. This is after the Phil Hickerson Dennis Condry tag team, and certainly it's before the Dennis Condry and Bobby Eaton tag team. We'll watch that video right now. Dennis Condry, David Schultz.
Got a Southern Tag title match that I want you to take a little look at a little bit later on.
I know this interview.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Found lacking in our previous presentations a discussion with David Schultz.
You know why?
Condry, which we
Lance Russell?
About their future and the picture of the.
Chris is going to do the promo for us.
You know, we're not dressed out to wrestle today. You know why? Do you know why?
We
The
could bow.
Jarrett and Welch Wrestling Company has got something against Condry and
I
Schultz.
love him.
When we signed the contract to come in here, Lance, we signed the contract for championship matches. Now, you know Buddy Fuller's down here in these little hick towns running around.
Bolivar, Tennessee. Bolivar, Tennessee.
Wearing his fancy suit, act like he's somebody. He's come down there and he says, Bill Dundee, Jimmy Valiant, Ricky Morton, all of them. Them are my champions. Them are my boys, you know? And now we ask them, why can't we get a championship match? What's wrong? They say, you're too violent. You're too violent. People wrote in and said, you're violent. You're violent. We don't want to see violence. Schultz and Condry's going to put somebody away. Get them off the television. They're too violent. Jerry, that little punk. That's what he is. See, I can call him anything I want to call him because I've got a contract, Lance Russell. They can't tear my contract up. You understand? And that's what he is. He's a punk. I asked him, I say, Jerry, what about you riding up and down the road with David Schultz and Dennis Condry? Oh, no.
Hear of it, Lance Russell. Would not hear of it, man.
No way.
Oh, sir.
That little Bill Dundee, you little freak, let me tell you something, Dundee. You running around here behind Jerry, following him real close. Well, Condry and Schultz are going to get you something, boy. We're going to get you a set of turn signals. And Jerry, we want you to hook them on your back, boy. And Dundee, whenever he goes to make a turn, he's going to flip a button if he turns right. He's going to flip another button if he turns left. Or you won't break your nose when he turns.
All right.
All right, nothing ain't through.
I'm going to ask you one question at a time. Now, I don't want to overload your mind, baby. I don't want to short circuit you. Now, every time you see Jay Jarrett, who do you see with him? Who do you see with him? I'll tell you see Jimmy Valiant or little Billy Dundee, the little 4-foot midget. That's who you see, man. Let me tell you something, baby. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty. We want championship matches, and we don't care what we have to do. If we have to knock the promotion, if we have to knock anybody, Daddy, we're going to get some championship matches.
Scared, Lance.
One way or another.
Scared, Lance. That's what's wrong. And Valiant, I'm going to tell you something, freak. You run out here with these 29-cent sunglasses with your bleached blonde hair. You think you're a man. You ain't nothing, boy. You're a punk from the Big Apple. And if you mess with us, we'll send you back. And Dundee, we'll send you to Australia. And Jerry Jarrett, we'll break your neck. And Buddy Fuller, I know you're down there somewhere in one of these little hick redneck towns watching. I don't like you. I don't like the promotion. But Lance, see, I can do this, Daddy. Nobody can cut me off. I got money, Daddy. I can buy this television station if I want to.
We're stars, Lance Russell. We're stars in the wrestling business today. If we weren't stars, you wouldn't be seeing us on this TV right now.
We're going to get some
We are
championship.
stars.
We're going to hurt somebody one. You hear me?
Woo.
I hear what you. Okay, fine.
What about the Stooges?
Yeah, how about it?
Are you listening up there?
Yeah, they listen.
We heard a lot of insults and not very much concrete about the plan.
Insult.
You come out here and just stand at insult.
Well, look at me.
David.
I
look
can
at
insult anybody I want to. I'm big
Hey,
enough.
I got in this business to hurt people, Lance Russell, because I'm a beat freak. I love to hurt people. Now, how can I hurt people if they won't book us in
They're
matches?
violent. They ought to send them to Fort Phillips State Prison or something. They're violent.
All right. How about it? Final words for the day in response to that, Michael.
I got to tell you, he's watching this and he's looking at me and he says, Papa, that sounds weird. He's hearing them argue and everything. And I said, it's Memphis TV. He said, when was that? I had to explain to him it was a long time ago. No, I get frustrated when I watch heels today and I watch a tape like this and I see what the heels are meant to be. And it's frustrating because either the boys don't get it or they don't want to do it. But that is bona fide, certified heel behavior that sells tickets and puts butts in the seats. And Memphis had a ton of them.
Final words, real quick. Michael.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate everybody. Really appreciate the comments. I had some great comments and really appreciate you guys allowing me to be part of what you guys do. Thank you so much.
Pat, final comments and reaction to that, and we've got less than a minute.
Just absolutely, like Todd said, definition of a heel, Southern, angry, redneck heel. The world's changing. He's going to be who he's going to be. Perfect. Great show. One of my favorite shows forever. Chris, glad you're here. Michael, Joshua, Randy, great night.
Chris?
Hey, Dennis Condry, one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. David Schultz, one of the greatest heels of all time. And I'm glad to be back and look forward to the summer because I'll be here every week. I hope David Schultz is here every week.
We'll look for David Schultz stuff. Thanks to Michael, to Pat, to Adam, and to Chris Ellis. I'm Randy Hills. Thanks for watching Talking Memphis Wrestling. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for being with us.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hill and special guest